This is all about getting out the vote.
On the campaign trail, it's clear where Kim Schrier's attention lies.
Because I really think the policies of this administration are bad across the board and a big threat to children and to their families, like all of your families.
As a pediatrician who's worked with children for the last 16 years, it's also clear where her priorities lie.
Hey, buddy. Are you being chased? Go get him.
Whether at a union hall speaking to volunteers,
Tell me what matters most to you.
or a library meeting with voters.
Sometimes people ask, like, why a pediatrician? To me, it seems really obvious.
Healthcare is at the forefront.
And it's been really my life's work and passion to take care of children and their families.
No doubt the topic this doctor is most comfortable with.
Are we talking about home visits just in the infant years?
But with so much at stake and a seat never won by a Democrat, it'll take more than one issue to send her to Congress.
Campaigning here in Auburn, like Dr. Schrier is today, is much different than campaigning in Ellensburg, for example. But that's the challenge of running in the 8th Congressional District. It covers an area that's so large and so diverse. But there is a real question about whether Dr. Schrier can actually relate to folks who live out in eastern Washington, where her opponent, by the way, has made sure to tell voters that she is the most left-wing candidate he's ever faced. It's painfully obvious that you know a lot about health care. I mean, you know, pediatrician. What do you know about farming? We're talking about the 8th. It's a huge place. What do you know about farming?
So I've spent a lot of time with orchardists, learning about what's going on in their lives, what matters, what would help them the most. It's been very interesting to hear, well, first of all, I don't think it would surprise anybody, the angst about the trade war, the tariffs, because they started by hitting our farmers the hardest.
Has that been a learning curve for you, given your background?
Oh, of course it's a learning curve, but that's what I do, and that's what any representative should do, right? We have a really big 7,000 square mile, incredibly diverse district, and my job is to represent everybody in the district, whether they vote for me or not. We really need representatives who will stand up for the people in the district.
But in the final days of her campaign, Schrier is trying to rally those who do plan to vote for her.
To make sure we support unions, because that is how you support the middle class.
At a union hall in Auburn, volunteers were treated to a pancake breakfast before heading out to knock on doors.
I think when you have, like, working class people like laborers and carpenters knocking on doors, and I think that is an X factor in this race.
Congresswoman Susan DelBene of Washington's 1st District took time out from her schedule to join, a sign of how important this race is to Democrats.
And we need to be working hard every single day until November 6th.
Later in the afternoon, the conversation steered back to children and health care.
My daughter, she didn't talk like up to 1.5, 2. Then they thought that she was on the spectrum.
Those are some of the hard conversations for pediatricians too, especially when parents come in and everything seems fine, but we pick up on something.
During a roundtable at a Democratic campaign office, Schrier met with the Save the Children Action Network.
Women advocate for policies that are good for families, good for kids, good for education, parent services, livable wages. So I'm excited about getting those things actually on the agenda for a vote.
The final stop of the day was a meet and greet with voters at the Auburn Library, where Schrier showed off perhaps her most impressive skill.
Well, I'm glad that you are doing well.
The ability to listen to people's problems.
Keeping the Affordable Care Act protections for people with pre-existing conditions is critical for you.
Yes.
To the point where her staff has to gently remind her to move on.
I just want to be mindful. I think
Oh my gosh, we have a, yes, oh my gosh, everybody came. Hi all. We were having this long conversation.
On this day, campaigning ended earlier than usual, as Dr. Schrier had a more pressing engagement, her son's 10th birthday party.
We owe it to the next generation.
Just a small reminder of why she decided to run for Congress in the first place. You did this because, like you said, you're a mom, you saw issues, you wanted to address them. When you look at what it's become, one of the most highly watched races in the country, one of the most expensive races in the country, what do you make of that? Do you like what it's become?
You know, it has become what it's become. And the fact of the matter is that the 8th District is right in the path to who has the majority in Congress. And depending on that majority, we either bring up issues that matter to the families in this district or we don't. The stakes are so high. From my perspective, the motivations are exactly the same. My heart is in the exact same place. I think people see that when they talk with me and I answer questions. So the fact that everybody else is watching, okay, hopefully everybody's watching and really concerned about the direction of our country, and that will motivate them to vote.